Welcome, everyone. Happy Super Bowl Sunday and happy Olympics. I've been watching the Olympics. Um, I welcome all of you to the Plant Powered Metro New York Cooking with Chef Carole monthly series. That's what we're doing here. So welcome to all of you, and a very warm welcome to our current Jumpstart participants. Really glad you're here. Congratulations on all you've accomplished so far, and I hope you enjoy the show. Plant Powered Metro empowers people to achieve better health and overcome chronic disease through a whole food, plant-based approach to nutrition. We offer evidence-based education, resources, and a grassroots network of support to create community and inspire change. Together as leaders, organizers, and educators, we raise awareness about the dramatic health benefits of whole food, plant-based nutrition. We empower individuals to make their own lifestyle adjustments, and we lead projects that spark changes in food policy, food practice, and food culture. So general announcements, it's February. I know many of you throughout the country, at least of the US, and on the Northeast, and are frozen in an Arctic blast that we're certainly experiencing here in New York City. However, nature is still providing for us, even in the cold. And even though there are fewer stands at the farmers market this weekend, there are still plenty of squashes and potatoes and beets and leeks and things like this that I saw on the shelves. Mostly a lot of potatoes. Anyway, and cauliflower, which we are featuring today. As always, we encourage you to buy organic and eat locally, eat seasonally, and if you can, eat regeneratively. Support the regenerative farms near you. The soil and all that is richer and will help with the nutrient value of the fruits and vegetables. A few really important announcements before we get started. You can go to our website for all the details, but very important and very proud to announce that next month, March, is Plant Powered Metro New York's 7th anniversary. And for the first time, we're hosting a fundraising gala in New York City on March 19th. And our theme is Woven Together, because we all are, and we all are connected, and obviously to nature itself. And what's super exciting is we will be featuring our honoree of the night, who is Ocean Robbins. Couldn't be more excited. So we invite and encourage all of you in the area, or even if you're not in the area, come to the city. Please buy your tickets. You can support us online. And if you're not in the city, it's a great time to make a donation. We have an angel supporter who might be matching funds. So please, large or small, either come to the event and donate, or donate whatever you're able to online. As you already know, beyond the edges of this screen, Plant Powered Metro does a lot of work in the communities all over the 5 boroughs of Manhattan, and we've reached well into New Jersey and Connecticut and out to Long Island. In fact, if you look at our events page, we have a bunch of things happening in a lot of the suburbs to New York as well. So there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes, and then day by day in communities. And then, of course, the stuff that you see on the website. So what are some of the events? This Thursday in New York, we have the Honorable Dr. Matt Letterman, which many of you might know from Chef AJ's show. I think she speaks to him online publicly in her show at least once a week, I believe. Anyway, he'll be in New York talking about the gut-brain-heart connection, how emotional safety supports digestion. Super important topic. It's something that we haven't addressed that much before, but involves how the nervous system and how you eat is almost as important as what you eat. And then we're hosting several live cooking demos in as I mentioned, some of the suburban communities nearby. And then we have a Spanish cooking demo that is virtual on February 27th. So for any of you Spanish speakers, or if you know people in the Spanish speaking community and they want to come to one of our demos, it'll be in Spanish on February 27th. And in honor of Ocean Robbins and, of course, his pioneering father, John Robbins, we're hosting live screenings of the film Love Over Money, which highlights John Robbins' story of walking away from the billion-dollar inheritance he would have likely inherited as the heir to the Baskin Robbins fortune in order to live in alignment with his values. And obviously, he sparked a global conversation, which we're still having, about food, health, purpose, and the environment and the planet. So I highly recommend you come join us in person. We have a couple of screenings already listed in our calendar. We will be adding more, so you can check back if you want to come to the live screenings. And the movie is also available on Amazon Prime, or if you've got a subscription to YouTube, there's a couple of other platforms you can watch it on. And again, the title of the film is Love Over Money. Highly recommend it. Very quickly, on March 4th, we're back with our Heart to Heart series, moderated by our wonderful James Spellos. And on March 9th, we're hosting Nutrition for Healthy Kidneys. So those two events are virtual, and please go to the website, check out all the events. There's really a fun couple of weeks ahead, online and in person. Okay, guidelines for today. Please let us know where you're from in the chat. Please ask questions in the chat. Carole and I usually allow time during the demo for questions, and if not, then we'll save a few minutes at the end to answer as many as we can. And if you're enjoying the presentation, please like us on Facebook or YouTube or even LinkedIn. If you're tuning in from them there, sorry, bit tongue-tied today. And we're going to head to the presentation. A fun fact about cauliflower. Cauliflower originally came from Cyprus and was introduced to France from Italy in the middle of the 16th century. It was all the rage at the court of French King Louis XIV, where it was served in rich and elegant dishes. Today, cauliflower has gained considerable popularity as a low-calorie, low-glycemic alternative to rice, mashed potatoes, and traditional pizza crust. So this is from a book I've often mentioned, 100 Best Foods, written by Dr. Joel Furman. We highly recommend this to gain even a deeper knowledge of what you're eating. And here we go. Carole, what's on the menu today?
Oh, Wendy, today is such a crazy, it's cold, right? Everywhere. Freezing in New York, I know. Maybe even warmer in New Mexico or in the mountains. And someone's in Ottawa, Canada, I see, and he or she says it's very cold. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know if it's he or she, because I can't see the comment. I just saw Ottawa, Canada. So anyway, we are making real, true Super Bowl food. And I have to admit to you, Wendy, this is not my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse has never been snacks like this. I grew up with football. I kind of detest it now, really I do. And I never ate nachos and cheese. When I did eat cheese, I didn't eat 7-layer dip. I never ate buffalo wings. So this food really for me, these are not my recipes because it's not my wheelhouse. But I have definitely taken from other people, but have kind of made them a little bit my own flair. So we are going to have three things. We're definitely having the buffalo cauliflower, and then which is from Forks Over Knives, and then we're going to have an incredible, yummy crusted tofu, with crusted with sesame seeds, and because I love sesame seeds, and then we're going to have this amazing queso with chips. And from there, you could add, refried beans and black beans to all of that. But let's get started. And two of the recipes are featured cauliflower. So I'm so glad to know the history of cauliflower. And two of the recipes called for this another thing that I never knew about, and I think it's very common and people probably all know about it. I'm probably is this hot sauce called Frank's red hot sauce. It's just a hot sauce. And it's something that I've never used. And when I first made the recipe, the both of them, I thought, oh, I better go get that red hot sauce. And I bought it. I saved the bottle just to show everyone. But I have so many hot sauces in my own refrigerator that I decided I'm going to use one of those mostly today, because and I'll go over this in detail later, but I thought it was interesting that two of the recipes that both have cauliflower in it called for this, but one has to note the amount of sodium. And we'll talk more about sodium later, but I just want to just not forget about the Frank's red hot salsa.
Carole,
Yes.
Can you spell the brand of that? I just didn't get
It's just Frank's, like in Frank, like the name
got
Frank,
it.
and then red
Frank.
hot. And I write it in the recipes because
Right.
that's how the recipes came. But one, like I said, because we're so conscientious of our sodium intake as well as our sugar intake and our any oil intake, we will talk a little more when I start to use those hot sauces about the sodium intake. But both recipes called for this, what I think is a mainstream hot sauce. That's what I think. And because I live in New Mexico, I think I have 4 or 5 kinds of hot sauce in my refrigerator that are, some of them are actually made locally here and are organic. So anyway, that's up my alley for sure. What we're going to do right away, even though we're not starting with the tofu, I left it here not to do it ahead of time. Our second dish is going to be pressed a tofu dish. And I'm just putting the tofu right now in the tofu press. I'm using a high protein super farm. You could use extra farm. This is Wildwood, a brand that I really love. I'm just going to get rid of this container. Whoops, I just untied my apron. I don't even think this super firm, you have to press it because it's so super firm. I don't think it's holding much liquid. So it's kind of, for me, a little test, because if I weren't on camera, Wendy, I wouldn't even bother, to tell you the truth. I would just kind of try to press out the water. But I kind of want to kind of have a sense. So I'm putting it in this press, right? And we're just going to leave it later and see how much water comes out of it. Not everyone I know has a press, and that's okay. You can do it the old-fashioned method, which is wrapping it in some paper towels and putting it between 2 pans or 2 plates, and then putting something heavy on top of it. But we're just going to put this aside. I just wanted to get that started. So this recipe is crispy buffalo bites. And I have the oven preheated. It's at 450 degrees. That's a very hot oven. And I have a bowl full of florets of cauliflower that I've already cut. And they're pretty big, I have to say. They're, you're going to get probably, maybe you could put the whole thing in your mouth, but it's probably 2 bites, is how I cut them. And what we're going to do is it says, this is from, like I said, Forks Over Knives. It's a gluten-free recipe. If you don't have brown rice flour, which some of you might not have, I really do think you could easily substitute a chickpea flour or regular flour like a spelt. I think it's all fine. But I love that this is gluten-free. I have so many friends that are gluten-free that it's just nice to use the brown rice, or you could use the chickpea flour. So it says to put it in a blender. I'm just gonna put it in a food processor because what I learned from making this the first time is that it was a very, very thick batter, and it kind of surprised me a little bit because it was so thick. But let me tell you what's going in it. So I put 2/3 cup of brown rice flour, and we're putting in 2 tablespoons of almond meal and 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. Now, just like everything we use in a can or jar, you do want to, again, look at that sodium. So I'm using, where is it? I'm using right now this Bio Nature tomato paste. It clearly says on the front, no salt added. There's also a brand that comes in a tube that has no salt added. So you really want to look for that, things that you're bringing home, that you're not bringing in the salt into your food as much as possible. Sometimes it's hard to avoid entirely. So we're going to put 2 teaspoons on this plate here. I have 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, and I have 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika. That's also going in here. And the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of dried parsley, which is something I don't even have. And I'm not quite sure how 1 teaspoon of parsley is really going to affect the recipe so much. So I'm just going to say I'm skipping over the 1 teaspoon. But if for some reason you have dried parsley, Wendy, is that something you even have in your cabinet, is dried parsley? I'm just curious.
I have dried parsley, and I have fresh parsley, fresh cilantro, and fresh dill in my refrigerator almost as a mainstay because of you, Carole.
Oh my God. Well, we're going to use some of those fresh
herb.
herbs for sure. For sure, we're going to use some of those fresh herbs. But parsley dried, I always have fresh, the Italian or the curly, whichever one. I like the Italian. But certainly I don't have any dried. And I have other dried herbs, but not parsley. So we're going to skip over that. So now what's going to go in here is it's simple. We're just making a batter. And normally batters are kind of runny and gooey. This batter is going to be very thick, and it says to put in 2/3 cup of water. And I really am going to add nearly a cup because when I made this the first time, I really felt it was needed. But the batter is definitely supposed to be thick. And just before I finish adding, just going to scrape down the sides. And again, it's not supposed to be a runny batter. It's supposed to be a thick batter. So it really clings. And like I said, if you've never made onion rings or any kind of batter, like, it's often quite runny, right? But this is not going to be runny. And I think this is actually a really nice texture. I'm going to not add all. I had a cup of water measured out, and I'm leaving probably a couple tablespoons behind. So let's just say about 3/4 of a cup of water. And I'm just going to leave that behind. And I'm not even going to taste this necessarily because it's going to be delicious. It's got to be the simplest thing that one could whip up in 2 seconds. And if you didn't want to put it into a machine, I honestly think you could have whipped it up just right into the bowl. It doesn't have any garlic in it, right? Except for the powder. So it doesn't really, I don't think, need a blade necessarily, but um, I just, that's the way the recipe was written, to put it in a blender, and I just added it into the food processor. So we're just getting as much out as possible, and we're putting it in this bowl, and we are going to, and like I said, we have the oven preheated already. And I, it's funny. Every time I make this, I try to do it a different way to see if I can find a way that is like the friendliest. What would be the friendliest? Let's move this over here for now. There's always, I'm trying to make room because we're gonna have a sheet pan. Now, depending on how big your sheet pan is, mine's like pretty large, and it says don't let the cauliflowers touch each other. She suggests using 2 sheet pans, but I have made this recipe before, and it all fit under one. So I'm just going to allow it to be on one. And again, you see that it's really, I'm wanting to get my hands in there immediately, but I don't want it to be all over my hands because it's kind of goopy, and it's really, like I said, kind of like a paste, not a runny batter, which is unusual, really. But it's very nice because it clings. And the key here is we're going to cook it at the high heat. And then when it comes out, we're going to let it sit. So it's going to cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. And then we're going to put some kind of, what she recommended was you can put Frank's hot sauce on it, like drizzle it over. But she also suggests that you could use a barbecue sauce, and I just happen to have a barbecue sauce in my fridge that I have made, because sometimes I like barbecue tofu. So I can I'm not giving you the recipe necessarily for that dish, but I can kind of tell you what goes into a barbecue sauce. Lots of tomato paste, or some people use ketchup, and then you want to have a little molasses, some kind of sweetener, some kind of mustard, a Dijon mustard, or maybe you just have a very favorite barbecue sauce that you like to use. But like I said, just happen to have one in the fridge. And I think that we'll use the barbecue sauce as a topping. The first time I made this, I actually put, what did I put on top of it? I put the sriracha that I love, and I'll show you that sriracha. So you can see I'm just carefully making sure that it's all crusted, and I'm kind of making sure that I'm pulling, because that crust is going to get all with the high degree of oven, and we're just spreading it out. It's kind of very time consuming here, just laying everything out. But you just, again, you don't want to just dump it on, because you want it to be all kind of so that every side is getting all crusty. And I'm almost done here. Now, with a little bit of batter, I want to tell you, you don't have to just make cauliflower wings, right? Cauliflower bites, I guess. Sometimes they're called wings. Sometimes, I don't know, they're called, but they're always called buffalo, right? Because buffalo in New York, that's where the wings really originated from. And we're making cauliflower. So there's just a teeny bit of sauce. I have one out, just 1 second. I'm gonna do this because I have a teeny bit of sauce, and rather than throw it away, I'm just gonna quickly cut it. I have a zucchini. So you could use broccoli if you wanted. I'm gonna just make a few spears of zucchini, because why not have different shapes and different size, and hopefully it cooks about the same amount of time. So I've just cut this into like little spears, and I'm gonna get it all coated up. And I think that it will be as good as the cauliflower as long as it has this coating on it. Where am I gonna put it? I have no idea because I'm really crowded here. So, so Wendy, you can use any, the vegetable of your choice. Obviously, cauliflower is the one to first use, but you certainly could and use the broccoli, or you could use we'll see how this works. I've never done the zucchini. We'll see how that cooks up. Trying to make sure that everything has a little bit of crust on it. And that is going to go in the hot oven for 20 to 25 minutes. And that's really simple. And I really love it very much because it's gluten-free. And
Carole,
things like everybody has friends. If you're not gluten-free yourself, you have some friends that are gluten-free. At least I
a
have
question.
several.
A
So
question
here's
is,
what this looks like at the moment.
it's
And we're going to go
gorgeous,
ahead and put it in the oven, okay?
gorgeous.
So,
And
so
we have a question also. You can go ahead
Okay,
and put it in the
let
oven.
me
And
put it in the oven, and then I'm kind of listening to you, even though my back is facing you. And I'm just going to make sure I kind of look at the time, and we are good to ask the question.
the question came up whether or not you would use that sauce in a different way, like over a stir fry.
I don't think so. I don't think so because
I
it's
think the
gooey
flour
and
would make a difference.
floury, and
Yeah,
it's kind of like it's gooey and floury.
yeah,
And I can't imagine it's not that kind of sauce.
right.
If I were marinating tofu, that I would definitely like put over ramen or something. Like it's just not the right sauce. It's
And the
too
other,
gooey and sticky.
got it. And the other question is, in this recipe, might you use cornstarch?
You could, but the thing is that I actually, when I made this recipe for it's really good. A lesson that I just want to tell you when you're finding a recipe online is I often read the recipe and then I go right to the bottom of it, Wendy, and find what everyone is saying. Now, some people will have a negative comment, and I just think that's just kind of random, just like anything else. Even if you're buying on Amazon, right, things have 5 stars, but then you have 2 people that say it's the worst product ever. So I usually go down to the bottom and I read the comments and I see what people are saying, and I see many people saying, why is this batter so thick? But she reassures us in the introduction that it needs to be this thick.
Got,
And so that's just the way it is.
got.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And so the only thing I omitted was the dried parsley, and it's in the hot oven now, and we're ready to move on. I do want to tell you that later we're going to make a peanut sauce, and I'm going to introduce a lot of different little hot sauces to everyone, and they can take it for what they want. I've introduced this before. It's yellow bird, and it's in my recipes. I mention it in the recipe for the tofu. I mention a bunch of different kind of oh no, in the queso, actually. In the queso, I mention a lot of different kinds of hot sauces. This technically is a sriracha. Um, it's made in Texas. I don't know how readily available it is on a shelf on the East or the West Coast. Here it's everywhere, maybe because the manufacturer is just right next door. But what I want to point out to you again about reading the label is this brand, Yellowbird, has like 6 different kinds of hot sauces, but most of them have cane sugar in them. And this is the only one, this particular one. And I always, before I even get it on the shelf, I have to read the ingredients. And this one has no processed sugar and is made with dates. But the other 5 kinds of flavors they have are not made with dates. So again, you just have to, just when you're grabbing something, just verify what's going on. This has tangerine juice. It has raisins in it, garlic. It does have a little bit of salt, has jalapeno peppers, and it has lime juice concentrate. But overall, it's very good. And what I did was, when I had only bought one teeny little bottle of Red Hot, Frank's Red Hot sauce, and I needed it for the queso. And in this recipe that we just put in the oven, she suggests to drizzle the Frank's hot sauce on top of it, or barbecue sauce, and I had none left. So what I did was, I took this sriracha sauce, I put it in a bowl, and I squeezed a half of orange, and kind of made it little saucy because it's quite thick right now. And I kind of just tossed the cauliflower in that sriracha sauce. So all I'm saying to you is, when this comes out of the oven, you have a lot of choices. You don't even have, it's crispy and delicious as is, but that extra layer gives it a little sheen and a little bit more layer of hotness to it. Okay, so you can figure it out what you're gonna. Today we're going to, when I take it out of the oven, I actually have this barbecue sauce that I have, homemade barbecue sauce. And maybe some of you have a favorite barbecue sauce. If you want, you could put it in the chat. I always think that there's someone out there, someone that is very like a Carole Klonowski, who might even know of a good barbecue sauce that has low sugar, low sodium, low. It's something I usually make myself, so I can't recommend a brand. But it's so easy. It's literally just tomato paste and a little molasses, a little bit of dates. I put dates in mine. I put cloves and ginger and mustard. I just kind of make a little bit of a sauce. So Wendy, that covers that, and we're gonna move on to the next thing unless somebody has a question.
There's not a question, but you are 100% right. In fact, Carole was ahead of both of us, because early on, she's recommended the Well Your World sauces, and they are very specifically no sugar, no salt, or if the sugar is used, it's date.
See, you've got to find the person that knows these things.
She knows these things and is very generous.
This is a wealth of information when people know the brand of things. It's just, I don't know the brand because I just make it myself, because I just assume making it yourself is the simplest way to do it. But getting it off a shelf that is pretty healthy, and something that, will you make a note, Wendy, so I can look that up? Will you write it down for me later on so I can look up Well Your
World.
Well Your World. Awesome.
Yes, they're terrific.
That sounds awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're going to move on next, okay, if there are no more questions, because we have to keep moving on. I do have to, I realize, rinse out the machine. So is there any other questions, Wendy, that maybe somebody has? Anybody? No? No questions. So, I'm assuming no questions, Wendy, huh? Because we kind of went through everything. Just takes 1 minute to wash up. So this next recipe technically was inspired by, for me, I love vegan Risha. We make things from her all the time. And this recipe that she created was a big salad with cucumbers. And I looked at that tofu and said, yummy, 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 with crusted black and white sesame seeds. And then I totally left the recipe. After I saw it, I left it. And she makes a peanut sauce, but I also have my own peanut sauce that I realize is has a little more uh, complex than what she originally wrote. So what you're seeing in the recipe is my sauce that I make for tofu and other kinds of tofu and other, when we make what do you call it? Those wonderful spring rolls that we've made, Wendy, before. A long time ago, we made spring rolls. And so this is kind of my standard. And I usually don't even have to look at the recipe because it's something that I make quite often. So let's just get the blade in here. And the key is to make the sauce first because we have to toss the tofu. So the recipe, I'm kind of going to go through it, is 3/4 of a cup of peanut butter. And I see that I already measured a cup. So I'm going to just not use it all because I don't need to use it all. I'm going to leave some of it behind. Okay, so I'm going to leave about a 1/4 cup behind. That's, I don't know, I just measured it and did, like I said, I hardly ever look at the recipe. So here we are. 3/4 cup of peanut butter. And then we're going to need a shallot or an onion. And we only want a small amount. So I'm going to use a shallot that looks like this. It's a small little onion. It's mild, right? So if it were a yellow onion, it'd be not so, it's stronger. And a red onion's a little sweeter. I would say a shallot is kind of in the middle of a yellow and a red onion. Has a mild taste, and I'm just peeling it here. Will we use this whole thing? It's kind of like a medium size, but I think we will use all of it. I'm just putting the skins over here because we can either compost them or we can use them in our broth. This is not, don't usually use a reddish onion in the broth, but it's kind of pale red. It's not totally red. So I'm just gonna chop this up roughly. I'm just gonna throw it in there. I'm gonna use the whole shallot. Said small shallot. I think it's kind of on the little medium size, but that's okay. And then we're gonna need, I'm going down the thing, 2 tablespoons of brown rice vinegar. That might not be something that you have in your pantry. If you don't have brown rice vinegar, you could use regular rice vinegar. That would work. Could use apple cider vinegar. Won't have the same flavor, but I always seem to have this brown rice vinegar. It's lasted quite some time. We need 1 tablespoon of fresh ginger. I already peeled this ginger, and I just wanted to show you that I buy a lot of ginger, and this is a tiny little container that's labeled ginger. It's actually too full at the moment to actually close. I probably could close it, but I put it in a container. Wendy, you should do this too because you eat a lot of ginger, but put it in all 1 container. Don't put it, that way you just go to the refrigerator and you know exactly where the ginger is. And it's not in a little plastic bag getting moldy. I find that it just lasts longer in a container and it's all together in one place. So when I need the ginger for a smoothie or for any kind of meal I'm making, I just grab the whole thing and it all stays together. I used to lose it in the back of the refrigerator when it was just in a bag. And somehow, Wendy, I feel like maybe I'm not sure. Maybe it's still in your little metal containers that you use. I'm not sure how you.
I do keep ginger all in 1 container. I have been doing that for a while, but it's an interesting question about ginger because I just saw online a doctor who was saying ginger is actually not something to keep in the refrigerator. And I was
Oh,
really curious about that because, I mean, I don't keep garlic in the refrigerator. I won't keep potatoes in the refrigerator, but I do keep my ginger in the fridge. So it's
yeah. I
something
think you
I
could
have to
get away with
research.
keeping it out. I think you could. I think it.
It just dries up quickly,
I
more
think that you
quickly.
can keep. It just depends how fast I think you're going
Yeah,
through it.
right,
So I think that's really the thing. Is I think refrigeration just kind of makes things last a little longer,
right.
but I don't think it's probably necessary. I think we have a habit of putting things away in
I
the
know,
fridge,
me too.
but doesn't necessarily need to go there. So
Yeah,
that is a very good point. While you were talking, I actually put two cloves of garlic because they're
super.
kind of small and we only need one clove, but they were kind of small, so I put two. And then we need a sweetener in this. So you sometimes need two medjool dates. I took out two, but I'm going to go with the one because I think probably it's enough. Lately, everything has been overly sweet to me, so I've been cutting back. I'm not quite sure why my apron is just like not wanting to stay together today. And then we need 1 teaspoon of hot sauce or chili flakes. Now, we're using so much hot sauce and everything. Normally, I would put this sriracha in here. That's what I would do. You could use Tabasco if you have. You could use another kind of hot sauce, but it's okay to just put 1 teaspoon of chili flakes. So I'm putting 1 teaspoon of chili flakes. Okay, that's not very much. It maybe sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. And then again, just what we just used, tomato paste. We need 1 tablespoon. 1 tablespoon, and I need about 20 more of these little spatulas. I'm always on the search of these little spatulas. People have big spatulas, and I find only the little ones to be the best in the world because you get into these little jars, and I don't know, I just love them. I could have like 15 little spatulas, and I'd be so blissful. Okay, so 1 tablespoon of tomato paste is going in there. Let's kind of put that. And then we need a little bit of cilantro. I have washed cilantro here. I'm just going to it says 2 tablespoons. I mean, what does that mean? I'm just going to throw some in there. It's going to be for flavor. So we're just going to put that in, and we're going to put that back in the water. Okay, and then the last thing we need is 1 cup of water. And somewhere I went away with my measuring, and I don't know if we're going to need all 1 cup. So I'm going to take 1 cup, and just like we just did a few minutes ago, I'm going to pour some in and kind of add it slowly because basically you're just wanting it to be a nice dipping consistency. Okay, that's what you're looking for, and every peanut butter is totally different. And we didn't talk about peanut butter, Wendy. I just realized is that we need to buy the peanut butter that just says peanuts. This says organic peanuts. This is Field Day Organic. It's not necessarily my very favorite peanut butter. I often like to just get the raw peanuts and put them into the Vitamix and make my own peanut butter. That is the nicest way to go. And if you were using the peanut butter that comes out of a machine at the store, when you weigh it, that peanut butter is super thick, so you might need more water when you're doing it. This is really smooth and creamy, so I think that I'm not going to need as much water as it says because it's so creamy. So I'm starting this slow, pulsing, and then I'm going to let it run. Again, the amount of water is going to be really up to you. I say it needs 1 cup, but this peanut butter was very, you know how when you get any peanut butter or even tahini, right? Tahini especially, sometimes it's thick, 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 and sometimes it's runny, runny, runny. I always prefer the runny, runny tahini, but I don't think we're going to need that water. So look, I only used 1/2 cup, just so you are aware. And I'm just gonna whoops, I just lost myself here. But I'm back here. And I think this is done. We'll taste it. Mmm, 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 yummy.
That looks
Delish.
delicious.
Delicious, delicious. And it, like I said, it's a little more complicated than her original recipe. Um, you're welcome to look at her original recipe online. She has a little simpler sauce, not as complex as what I have. But I really do like this sauce, and it is something that I make pretty often. And you can add more water to it if you wanted it to be drizzly type. You know, like let's just say you were gonna eat a salad and you really wanted to drizzle it, then you just add a little more water. I kept it a little bit on the thicker side. Why? Because we're going to use it to dip in later, and and we're going to do the tofu. So let's, I'm thinking what am I doing? I'm thinking we'll put a little bit of this sauce for later. We have probably more sauce than we need, but here's going to be the dipping sauce for later. And then we need to put about, I'm going to say, let's just move this well, not quite move this, but let's just, let's see how the cauliflower is doing in here. Oh, it's doing well. I don't even need to turn it. It's just cooking away. It's fine. And let's just dry off this table here. And we're going to get another sheet pan that I've lined with parchment paper. And we're going to get our tofu. Let's just see if we can. And we're going to put about a quarter cup. We can get, I have 2 tablespoons here, a measuring spoon, and I don't have a quarter cup near me here. But I'm going to take about a quarter cup. This part doesn't have to be so very exact. This is our kind of just like what we just did. It looks almost similar. Everything is orange today, Wendy. It has all the same color. Not used to that. I'm used to having many colors. And let's just get this off the counter. So in this is about a quarter cup, okay? And we're going to put 1 tablespoon right now. So we've got our sauce, and we're going to put 1 tablespoon of either cornstarch or tapioca, just a thickener. And this is where I'm really following her methods. And we're going to put it right into the peanut sauce. And we have to get that tofu cut. So I'm taking 1 whole of tapioca flour. Okay, we're going to just put that over here. And we're going to mix this up. Okay. And this is where I might need a little more water. It looks very sticky, but it looks okay. Actually, now that I'm and maybe a little more sauce, just a tiny bit. Depends on how much tofu we're going to actually get done here. Okay, so this is good. You want to mix that cornstarch in. It's kind of getting thicker as you can. Okay, so that's all mixed up. Okay, we're going to go back to our cutting board here. We're going to take our tofu. Oh my gosh, to my surprise, as deep as the tofu is enough water, is so much water. So little did I know, or remember I was kind of skeptical earlier, and sometimes I don't know how to unpress the tofu, but here, a lot of water. I never had a tofu press till just, I don't know, just recent, when I left New York, I feel like recently in my life, I have a tofu press. But it really does make a difference. I used to just think I could press it myself, and it really takes all the water out. So we're going to cut this, and we're going to make little tiny pieces that are bite size. You could cube it if you want. It doesn't matter. This is how I'm cutting it. Do you see? It looks about a little shorter than my finger here. Okay, here's my finger. Maybe my baby finger. Maybe my baby finger's a little bigger, but just bite-sized pieces. You can cube it if you want. It doesn't matter, okay? Don't know that we're going to, I guess we could do it all. We might as well do it all, right? We're going to just cut it. And I'm cutting it like about a half an inch thick. And we're just doing this here. And we are moving along just fine here. And it's a lot of tofu. And we're just going to cut this. So we're going to now encrust this in sesame seeds, which to me is the favorite thing ever. So let's move this. And this is a little messy of a process. So you kind of, if you've ever done any breading of anything, you kind of try to keep one hand clean and one hand dirty. I have a bag here that I mixed white sesame seeds and black sesame seeds. So some people call this tuxedo. Sometimes you can buy them mixed already. I don't know where you can buy them mixed already, but I have seen them in a store like that. But I just combine equal amounts of white and black. If you only had white, that's fine too. You don't have to toast them or anything. Why? Because you are going to have them in the oven. So let's just, before I get my hands all dirty, look at what's going on in the oven here. And see how this is cooking. This is looking pretty good. It's not quite done, but it's getting brown. And I can still see that it's a little wet, right? So I just want it to kind of dry out and get crusty. So I'm going to leave it in for a very few more minutes while we're doing this process here. Okay, and again, I'm going to try to keep one hand, and you want to try not to break the tofu. That's why I think it's best to use the extra super firm, because you want to coat the tofu, but you also don't want it to break up. And I found when I first did this technique, I used the firm, and I felt like it was wanting sometimes to break. So that's why I got what they call the super firm, and they call that the high protein, a higher protein, right? Now you could do this in it reminds me of when I was a kid and we made shake and bake, and shake and bake was always done in a bag. You put the breadcrumbs in, and then you put the at the time, it was in my younger life, it was chicken, and and you shake and bake, right? You figure out your technique, right? Uh, but you just don't want to get your hands, and your goal here is to coat the tofu, okay? And like I said, you want to coat it on all sides so it looks like that, right? And you're just going to set it down. That's it. You're going to just coat it and set it down. And you're going to do this like 20 times, because and again, I'm trying to keep one hand clean, one hand clean. I'm going to eventually have to wash my fingers, but you're just coating so that it ends up, and you're trying to coat it, all of it. And that is the beauty of this, is that it's sesame crusted tofu, covered in peanut sauce. I'm just going to rinse my hands. And sometimes I find that it's better to not put in all the sesame seeds, because sometimes they get all wet and dirty, and you want to start almost with a clean bowl. See, we're not even halfway done, but let's just get more done here. I'm not sure we'll get them all done, because it's just a kind of tedious process here, but it would be good to get it all done. So otherwise I'm doing it later. But let's just get the coating on, right? And Wendy, this is a good time, while it's so kind of a little boring to watch crusting the tofu. I'm just going to throw them all in, not all of them. And again, like I said, I'm not sure that we're going to do them all, but I can save some for later. But we're going to put a little more in.
I don't know that it's boring to watch at all, Carole, but I will say that the idea of the peanut sauce with all the spices or flavors in that sauce, it certainly has me salivating, probably the audience too. But we had an interesting question about your previous recipe. Are you able to do
Oh
that?
yeah, I can talk. What I'm
Great.
doing is so I can be anywhere you want me to be, Wendy.
I got muted, or I was muted somehow. So yeah, we have a question that I did end up looking up on AI, which had to do with
Oh,
a particular southwestern region of hot sauce.
oh,
So in the Southwest where you are, do
uh-huh.
you have a very specific recipe to that's more regional compared to Memphis or Kentucky or Texas or the Carolina hot sauces?
I don't ever make hot sauce myself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do rojo sauce, like with chilies and things, and I do make, but it's not this kind of like sauce. It is a rojo sauce and could be used definitely. And have made that for more like for enchiladas or something, like a more like. I don't want to call it a marinara. It's a rojo sauce. And I wouldn't call it a hot sauce. I mean, it is hot. Where I live in my neck of the woods, well, here's Rancho Gordo. They make a wonderful hot
They do.
sauce, and
Mm-hmm.
I love the name of it the most. They call it mild chili sauce for hot people.
Awesome. That's
Mild
you,
chili
Carol.
sauce for hot people. And I
Very
like it
cool.
if you read the description. If you read the description of it, it's like when you don't want to sweat, but you want it hot. So that's a Rancho Gordo product. I like this one from Arizona Peppers. That is a really yummy one. Organic Harvest. It's Chipotle habanero pepper sauce. And
Cool.
then where I live in Taos, New Mexico, there's a wonderful company called Taos Hum, and everything is local in this bottle. All organic chilies, organic peppers, everything. So I tend often to use what's close by, only
Yep.
because it's called House Hum, Hum, and it's got this really great. I don't think you can see it if I even. Oh, how do I do this? I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
got frozen somehow, but but if I could show you, they have a what they call a the hum meter, and it shows you the degrees and levels of hotness in green and yellow and red and dark red, and it just shows you. This particular one that I like is called Red Ghost because it's Red Ghost chilies. So I kind of live in a heavenly place of chilies and have a lot of choices, but I think a lot of stores actually have usually a good variety of choices. Oh, and while we're talking about that, Wendy, in case we get so busy later when we're making the queso and we need to have so much hot sauce, I want to just tell you, I wrote it down so that I wouldn't forget. But the Arizona organic one, so everything is 1 teaspoon a serving to how much sodium. So the Arizona has 130 milligrams for 1 teaspoon. The regular Tabasco sauce that we know about only has 35 milligrams of sodium. And Rancho Gordo has 60 milligrams. Okay, so 60 milligrams is already half the amount of Arizona, right? And then what else? The Chula, that's a kind of popular one that has 110 milligrams of salt. And guess what, Frank's? Frank's that is recommended in both recipes. That, like, I call it this mainstream. Oops, Frank's. Where did it go? Frank's. Frank's. I call it mainstream hot sauce. That was in both the bites as well as the queso that we're gonna make. that has 190 grams of sodium for one salt. So it just shows you, all I'm trying to say is you choose your battles, right? We can have some salt in our lives, a little bit of salt, not very much salt. We can have very much, but you choose your battles, and you try not to have bring home things that have salt in them, right?
Right.
But I'm just telling you that sometimes you use products that have a little bit of salt, but you have to really recognize the label. You have to read the label. That part is super, super important, because not all things are created equal.
Right. I'm just going to emphasize that for the people who are here for the first time from the jump start, because I know you're learning about labels and you're learning about looking at things, and you will see in any sort of processed product a big difference between the sugar and the salt, and some of the things that we're encouraging you to not use and to really just use whole foods. So yeah, you're just watching it in person with Carole being attentive to showing us this online.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I just think, Wendy, when I started taking salt out of my diet, right? I
yeah,
I I made sure nothing had salt, and now I just am very careful if there is something that it's just the smallest, not a lot. We're allowed 1 teaspoon a day technically, and I say to people, I think it's better to come off of it immediately, just all in one full swoop. But if you're someone that has to do it in their own way, we are allowed 1 teaspoon.
well,
So
200 milligrams.
yeah,
Yep,
yes, which is 1 teaspoon
yep,
technically, and I all I'm just saying is that you could have that on your table, and that's
yep,
all you get. But that
right,
means that you have to have things like the beans that say no salt. It
correct.
means that you're having to use any kind of ketchup or any kind of tomato paste or any kind that has no salt. Because if you're taking that one, you have to bring home the things that have the no salt. That's
Exactly.
that's all there is to it.
We have a question about the tofu, which is an interesting one. Um, uh, Paige asks, can I make the tofu dish and the cauliflower bites with the air fryer?
Oh
Uh,
yes.
or because we need 450 degrees, is it not suitable?
Oh
I
no,
don't
no,
know
no,
how
no,
high
no.
the air
If you
fryer
have
goes.
an air fryer, use it all by all means. And I just forget. I'm glad they. Who was that? Judy? Is that what you said?
I believe her name is Paige.
Okay, Paige, thank you so much for mentioning it. I don't have one. I have used one in the past to make falafel, and a friend of mine here in Taos has one. And whenever I go to her house, I'm like, let's use the air fryer. So, because it's so fast, right? It's going to be way faster than your oven, okay? But I think that a lot of people don't necessarily have this equipment. Especially, I'm empathetic to those New Yorkers who live like I did in a 400 square foot apartment and don't have room to have the Instapot, the KitchenAid, the Vitamix, don't have necessarily the room, nor maybe you're just starting off and you don't have all this equipment. You know, equipment comes over time and over a period of time. So I just say, don't fret. I don't want you to be new, especially the jump starters. And you're like, oh my God, this is so much. We have to have a Vitamix, and then we have to have this, and we have to, honestly, you don't. You need a skillet. You need a skillet and a cutting board and a knife and a pot and a soup pot. That is all. Honestly, that is all you really truly need. These other things, the first thing I got, I can show you if you're wondering, and it's economical, money wise and financially, is a NutriBullet. I mean, this is maybe $65, $75. Maybe it's gone up since I bought mine, but it is really strong and really powerful. And I love it the most. I make smoothies, I grind flour, I mean, it wasn't until years later that I had a Vitamix, years later. And this worked as my workhorse forever. And you know, some people don't have the means to get the Vitamix. So you don't have to have all these things. They come over time. And they come out of necessity the more you cook. But I don't want anyone to feel that they need that. Okay, so an air fryer, absolutely. If you have it, use it. Here's our tofu. Whoa, if I show it to you and lean it, I stopped the process because I could be here forever doing this, and I don't want to be here forever doing this. So I'm going to put it in the oven now, and it basically has to just cook. And we are going to cook this at a different temperature. I'm trying to remember what, at like 400 degrees. And my oven back here is at a higher temperature, almost 450. And what I'm going to do just to see if this is done, I think it is done. Let's see. Yes, it is done. But let's just, I'm going to, yeah, it's dry. Everything is dry, right? It's not moist anymore. And we're just going to leave it out for a few minutes to get crisped up before I add any sauce. And we're going to put this in, and we're just going to lower the oven just a little bit. But that's going to go in the oven. And maybe we'll leave it at the little higher temperature because we want to get it done during our show. And when I'm here by myself, we don't have to rush it. So this, as you can see, gets very messy. And sometimes you want to just clean this out and start all over again. Like maybe when I finish the rest later on, I will clean this bowl and start with a fresh batch of sesame seeds, because eventually it just gets to be very messy. And you kind of can't deal with it. So that is that in the oven now, and it's cooking. We're going to move on to what I think is going to be really delicious, queso. I've made a lot of different kinds of queso, some with butternut squash, some with red peppers, roasted red peppers. And I got attracted to this one by Nisha Vora. She is now actually writing for the New York Times. She's a contributing writer, a recipe developer, and she has a website called Rainbow Plant Life, or Rainbow. It's called. What is it called? I can't even remember. It's called Rainbow Plant. And it's this is her recipe, and I really haven't changed it so much. And why it caught my eye, rather than show you my normal queso recipe, one, I'm always wanting to try something different, but I loved the ingredients in this. and that's what kind of made me want to do it. So we are going to, it's called cheesy buffalo cauliflower dip. And we're going to get the Vitamix over here. And I like the Vitamix for this particular thing because it's got a big vessel. The container is large. And it really, you want it to be really whipped up and really as smooth as possible. Now, I almost forgot we need to cook the onions. So I'm going to put on the burner here. And we're going to have a little quick lesson, even though some of you already know this. But you do want to get the pan hot. I'm just using a ceramic pan. There's going to be no oil in it whatsoever. I roughly chopped a half a medium onion and 4 garlic cloves. And a half a medium onion. I probably did a little more than a half. It was a kind of small onion, so I probably did a full. And Wendy, I'm still eating my own onions from the summer. So it's so amazing. I think that I'm going to have to run out around March, and I won't have the new onions till like July. So there'll be just a few months where I won't have been cooking with my own onions. Oh, and my own garlic, which is kind of like pretty amazing, like really amazing. This is my first year growing yellow onions, and I think I'm going to grow a whole box full of onions because I'll be so excited. So let's just make sure this pan is getting hot. It's not hot yet, starting to get hot. I put a few drops of water in it, and I should have put the burner on earlier. We might take it to the back of the stove just to speed things up, but we're gonna put this in, and I'm going to maybe leave a few little onions behind because I probably cut too much. So we're gonna, and I just rough chop the garlic and I rough chop the onions. I didn't really chop them really well because it's all gonna go into the blender ultimately. Okay. And I'm just getting a cup of water so it's nearby. You could use broth. I have some broth in the fridge, but water's just fine. And we're going to water saute. So the two things that I omitted from this original recipe, I omitted the olive oil that she would normally saute her onions and the garlic in olive oil. We're not doing that. We're water or broth sauteing. And we're just waiting for this pan to get just slightly hot. And then she also adds a tablespoon of brown sugar or coconut sugar to this recipe. And I saw no reason to do that actually. So let's talk about the other ingredients while we're just waiting for this pan to get hot. And if it doesn't get hot in a minute, I'm going to literally go to the back burner. So we also need, what do we need? 1 cup of cashews. And I've been soaking the cashews. And what are we gonna do? We're gonna drain them. You really want to soak them for at least overnight is ultimately the best. 8 hours is ultimately the best. If you're ever in a hurry and you're trying to make a cashew cream or anything related to cashews, I made a beef stroganoff not a beef stroganoff, a mushroom stroganoff last night, and it needed some cashews, and I didn't soak them, and I only needed a quarter cup. I just put boiling water over them, and they were ready in like 15 minutes. But you want them to be puffed up and all soft, nice and soft. So we're going to just put those right into the machine now that it's drained. So that is our 1 cup of cashews. And she does give some measurements in weight, and that is really great. This is finally starting to sizzle. It took a few minutes. I'm going to put a little bit of water, not a lot. Can you get a little wooden spoon here? And the onions are already cooking. I can smell them. And we're just going to want to saute these. And again, we're not sauteing them in oil, and we're not drowning them in water. We're just putting a little water to basically keep everything moving so nothing is getting stuck. And what happens is the onions naturally have their own sugar. So they're just going to naturally come. The sugar is going to start to release. People have said to me, oh, you can't caramelize onions without the oil. Well, it's just simply not true. If you were to cook these onions continuously, they're going to release enough sugar and they're going to caramelize, okay? So this is sizzling, which is exactly what I want. I'm seeing that I have like a mess everywhere. It's crazy, but that's what it is. We're going to keep going with adding our things. So eventually we're going to get these onions in here, but I'm going to keep telling you what we're putting in. So I'm going to go systematically. So you need 1 cup and 3/4 of cannelli beans. And those are the white beans. And if you're not cooking your own beans, which I always advocate because it's the most cost-effective thing, and having fresh beans is just awesome. But I definitely eat my share of canned beans. They're very inexpensive. I have an Albertsons here, and I buy these no salt beans for like $1.29, like so cheap. And you literally have to read, and it says no salt added. And I make so many different kinds of dips and things that, and I buy them when they're on sale too. So I just stock up. So these beans are going to go in here along with the cashews. So isn't this interesting? We got cashews and we got beans. Okay, the next kind of really fascinating, we're sauteing this, okay? And I can see that the garlic is starting to stick just a little bit. So I'm just gonna add literally a hair of water, okay? And we're not wanting these onions to necessarily get brown. We're just wanting them to just get translucent, okay? You're just wanting, you don't want raw onions in the dip. You want them to be cooked, but you're not necessarily needing them to be brown. And you're wanting that garlic also to cook a little bit so that it's not raw. And I think we're pretty much there with that. But let's just add, we're gonna add one more thing here. We're gonna add the cauliflower. Now, what kind of cauliflower? I weighed the cauliflower. She suggests a cup and a half of cauliflower florets, and I steam them. Okay, you want to cook them in advance. You don't want them raw. You want to steam them. So these are really just steamed, and I did a bunch of cauliflower earlier because I've been eating a lot of cauliflower, and I steamed a whole head, and then I portioned off exactly what I needed. So I'm going to turn this off now because we don't need it any longer. Okay, and we're going to get this onions in here. Okay, and a little bit while I'm talking, see, I want to just show you a little bit stick, but if you get a little teeny bit of water, it starts to sizzle, and you literally can get all that out. It literally just comes right out. That's what's great about these ceramic pans. This particular pan is the pan that I always cook my Isla, her vegetables in. And she thinks that when I am getting this pan out, she runs. She runs and thinks, oh, mommy's cooking me food in the pan that is mine. That's what she thinks. She's a little crazy, but that's what she thinks. Okay, so this is ready to go, but we still have things to add, and I'm just gonna kind of bring them into sight here. Okay, we have to add still 1 teaspoon of paprika, and we're gonna add nutritional yeast. And nutritional yeast, a half a cup, and that's a lot of nutritional yeast, but we want this to be super cheesy, right? Cheesy and yummy. And then we're going to add almost almost a cup in 3/4 of a cup, actually. 3/4 of a cup of hot sauce. Now, that's a lot of hot sauce, everyone. So I would like, if everyone makes this, anyone that makes this, I measured out 3/4 cup because I like things hot, and I know I've made it before, okay? But I suggest in the recipe and that you start out with a half a cup. Now, if you're someone that's very timid about any kind of hot sauce, and maybe you're using a brand that you've never used before, go with a 1/4 cup, but slowly add it and get the flavor that you want. It's kind of like adding spices, right? You're going to look, sometimes you have to play and tweak around and play with it a little bit. So let's get this going. Now, this is going to be very steamed because the onions are steamy, and I'm going to get my little stopper, okay, and we're going to put this on. Okay. Now, something I learned the other day that I thought was the most magnificent thing. Wendy, I bet you don't know this, and you've used the Vitamix longer than me. You know how, like, the stopper I've always showed to put it in a cup, right? Put it in a cup like this, right? Put it in a cup so it doesn't roll around all over your counter. But what dawned on me the other day is the lid. If you have the lid off, it's the same size. Look at that. You don't even need a cup. I don't know why it took me all this time to discover that. My boy, oh boy, I thought I thought, oh my God, I just thought, oh my gosh, how did I not know this before? Maybe
Sometimes
other
it's the
people know these
simplest
things.
things.
But I've always grabbed a cup, and
Me
so
too.
that the stomper doesn't roll off to the floor. And
Me
I've
too.
always just grabbed a glass or a measuring cup. And but oh my God, I had the lid off the other day, and I thought, oh, that looks like the same diameter. I could just put it in that, and that will be like totally. So you, this is where I'm wanting you all to uh be safe, but I'm not being safe because I've made this before, and I'm literally putting in all of it. Now, if it's really hot, you can get a towel. Well, let me get a towel and just kind of put it over if you want. And this just, but I'm going to use the stopper. Now we do need to look at it. It makes a lot of noise, so I try not to talk during it. Okay, let's just, again, we can use my great little lid here. Look at that. And we can just take this off. And of course, you always have to, just never replaced. I don't know if you all remember, but I never replaced my little spatula that was made just for the green one you have, Wendy. I never replace mine because I find that sometimes I grab that spatula and instead of the stomper, and then it eats up the spatula. And I don't know. So I'm just here kind of moving, making sure none of some of the nutritional yeast is a little bit on the side. And it's almost smooth. I can taste it. Oh my God. It is so yummy. And it's a little spicy, just a little bit. And again, I recommend that you want it super, super whipped up. Okay, you want it really as smooth, and oh my gosh, it's really there now. I maybe give it 1 second more, but before it was a little bumpy. Now it's like totally really smooth,
So
right?
smooth.
Super smooth. You want it velvety, and I think when I was a kid, this was Velveeta cheese spread, some kind of
Right.
weird, like that's what it reminds me of, right? This kind of whippy kind of thing, but you want it totally smooth. Um, mm, I'm sure this would be good. I make a different kind of macaroni and cheese, but I'm sure this would be delicious over pasta. And then, put it in the oven with the pasta shapes and then bake it and put maybe some crust on top, like a breadcrumb crust. I'm sure it would be delicious. But let's just give it one more little swirling. And what I was saying earlier was that if I really want you to try to just use a little bit of hot sauce at a time. That is super important. You do not have to add it all at once unless you're one of those people that like it hot. Now, when I arrived in New Mexico, there were lots of strange things for me here. I didn't never live by the mountains. There were lots of things. I never lived in a place that had no lights on the street, like I'm a city girl in every way. But when I moved here and I learned about all the different hot sauces and the different peppers, and I saw during the summer every grocery store roasting chili peppers, I thought, oh my God, I've died and gone to heaven. This is my world. So I do like spicy things, but if you're one of those people that you just don't know, you just want to be doing it just like adding a jalapeno when you're making the guacamole. The recipe might say a whole jalapeno, but maybe you start with a half and then you add the other half once you taste how hot that jalapeno is. Okay, so this makes, you can see that my Vitamix, this is really a game day queso, and it also can stay in the refrigerator for many, many days. When I made it the last time, I actually gave away most of it because what am I gonna do to look at it? But can you see how whippy and smooth it is? It's so beautiful. Watch it pour. It's so beautiful. It's so silky and so delicious. Okay,
Carole,
I'm not gonna put it all in the bowl, but you can see that I probably have a whole nother bowl that I can have.
it
So
looks amazing.
so Wendy, if you were to make this, like me being a single person, right? If you're not making it for a party, right? But you're wanting to have some for yourself, maybe just make a half a recipe if you want,
Right.
right? You can easily half the recipe. It's not so difficult. It's just that this is a super game day dip. So what I'm going to do is I have just recently had oral surgery and I'm not allowed to eat anything crunchy. So yes, I made tortilla chips. I spent over 20 minutes in the tortilla chip aisle reading every bag of chips. And I could not find, even if they're baked, they have safflower oil, some have avocado oil, some have, high levels of salt. It is really hard to find the perfect chip that doesn't have all the junk. So normally I make my own tortillas and I thought, oh, no one's going to make their own tortillas just to serve with the dip. So what I did and what I encourage you all to do is get tortillas, corn tortillas, and these are the brand Food for Life, right? The Ezekiel bread that we all eat in this plant-based world. And these are sprouted corn tortillas. They're delicious. I cut them into pieces. I put them in an oven that was like 350 degrees. I even wanted to make them flavorful. So I squeezed a lime on top of them. And then what else did I do? I put some chili powder on them. So here are the chips, right? You're just gonna put the chips here, right? You're gonna put all the chips ready to serve. And I don't know, you're going to encourage people to eat some vegetables next to it, right? I steamed some carrots and some broccoli. I thought that would be kind of pretty on the plate. And that I can't eat chips at the moment, so I might as well put all the chips out. I don't know, I'm not having a party, but I'm just going to put them all out. They're really pretty, okay? And then if you want, I don't know, maybe you have, I'm going to look here. Maybe you have some guacamole, right? So here's some guacamole. You could put that also on the platter if you want, right? And what I want to say is if you're one of those people that love 7-layer dip, you could put the tortillas down, then the black beans, some refried beans. You can then put the cheese. You can layer it up however you want, okay? But this is how I would serve this. And let's just finish because we're near finishing and I want to kind of show you everything plated. Let's get this cauliflower out here. Now this dipping, here's the crazy little zucchini. I'm going to do this right on the plate here, just so I don't have to make another. I'm going to take a little brush. You could put it in a bowl, but I'm just going to literally put barbecue sauce on top. Going to make it all shiny. This is my method. You could drizzle it, but this is just like adding a little more. Oh gosh, it smells really good. Oh my gosh, I just got a whiff of it and it smells super yummy. In the recipe, she suggests that you could serve it with Caesar salad. Not Caesar salad, but Caesar dressing if you want. You could make a spinach ranch dressing. And in the recipe, I gave you Kathy Fisher's wonderful Caesar dressing that I love. But honestly, I don't see why you need to dip any of this. You could dip it. And Wendy, you mentioned specifically, let's just put this on a platter. Let's put it here. Let's put it on this platter right here. I have this cool platter here, right? And the tofu's still in the oven, right? So let's just put all of this. I'm only one person and I'm gonna have all this food, right? So let's have this, that's there, right? And we're just piling that up like that. And then I made a dip, Wendy. Instead of making a dressing, just like what you were talking about, I had a little yogurt, yogurt left, and I chopped dill and parsley and cilantro and did a whole, just all fresh herbs, and I literally just made a dip. Just that, like that's yeah, just that alone, and we could have that to dip in. We could just, oops, that's a fork. We need to finish plating and it's really super timely. But look, you could just put that and
Amazing.
that would be your dip. And that's just a little yogurt with lots of fresh herbs. Okay. So, and you could put other dips in your little thing if you have little dips here. And now let's just finish and get, I don't know if our tofu is quite done. Probably is almost done. Maybe needed a few more minutes, but let's just get this. And oh, here's Isla. She knows we're almost done. And she says, Mama, she says, I'm ready to eat, but she can't eat any of this. No, you can't eat any of this. So, oh, the tofu looks awesomely great. It is done. I can see it because it's all brown. So we're going to get that. Okay. And we're going to get our little toothpicks, right? I'm going to, remember we put a little peanut sauce in here in a bowl. And then we're going to, I feel like we're going to have a party any minute, but I don't have a million guests coming. And we're just going to, this again can go right into a salad, but I'm just going to put little toothpicks because I think that's the best way to pick these up. And you can get a bigger plate, obviously, but I just want to kind of pile them on here like this. And you can see that is pretty much, and you could do a little more decorating. I did roast some red peppers to put on top. You could put roasted red pepper and then put the toothpick in. It's all up to you. You have to use your imagination how you want it to look pretty, but that's probably good enough for now. And that's pretty much that is it, Wendy, right here, done. Our parting begins almost maybe right this minute. So,
Carole, that looks absolutely beautiful, and I believe the Super Bowl kicked off 2 minutes ago.
oh my
So
God! So
we're
everybody
running
run.
late.
I don't. I'm not watching it myself, but awesome. Whoever is wanting to watch it, I'm actually gonna. Oh, and you could put salsa and a little bit of chopped onions, right? Scallions, some chives. I mean, really, whatever you want. I'm going for the carrot. That seems to be the best way to do it from me.
It
Remember,
looks
you never double
absolutely
dip when you're at a
delicious.
party. Don't double dip. If you put something in your mouth, you don't go back, right? So you try to take as much dip as you want in the one full swoop. But that's everything. I hope everyone has a great Super Bowl. Have a good Valentine's Day. Have a good rest of the February. And Wendy, you take it away with the announcements.
I will. Thank you so much. And obviously, we're running just a little bit late, but that's it for the Super Bowl edition. These are, as you're well aware, very, very healthy snacks. And another little tip I didn't say about cauliflower is that it is a cruciferous vegetable, and cruciferous veggies also are, there's a link between a component in them and anti-cancer prevention. And so these are the healthiest snacks I think anyone is going to have for the Super Bowl tonight. and good luck making them. And then once again, just want to quickly let you know about these events at Plant Powered Metro. Please mark your calendar. If you're in the New York area, please come to the 7th anniversary party, our fundraising gala, and do come to the film screenings. We're going to be honoring Ocean Robbins at the gala. So this is a screening about his father, John Robbins. And if you're not in the area, please watch the movie if it's of interest to you. He's quite a remarkable man and really was one of the pioneers of our whole food plant-based movement. And Ocean now has a wonderful series called, or organization called the Food Revolution Network, and they do tremendous work. So we're in very good company. And then we have an event here in New York on Thursday, February 12th, and more events coming up, back to our Heart to Healthy Heart series and our Nutrition for Kidney Disease on March 9th, I believe. So do come join us. We love having you here. We love having you on the cooking show. And happy cooking to everyone. Oh, I realized I didn't get to two of the questions. Carole, are you still around? Oh, I think we may have lost Carole. Wait, Carole,
No,
are you there?
here.
Oh, there.
I'm here.
Two questions. There's Isla.
Hi, she's here.
Two questions. One, can you use frozen cauliflower? And if you use frozen, do you just let it thaw or do you still have to cook it?
For the queso, if you have to cook it. You have to cook it for sure. If
Okay,
it's not,
great.
I'm assuming it's not cooked, it's just frozen cauliflower. So
Yeah,
it definitely has to be cooked cauliflower. But
okay,
you
great.
could
And
use
then
frozen. You could use frozen.
super. And then another question had to do with the pan. If you only use ceramic, or can this be made in a stainless steel?
Oh yeah, any kind of pan. I just was telling you that the ceramic is the best because it doesn't have stick. I use my old stainless steel all flat pans all the time. You just might need a little more water or broth when you're sauteing because they're not as they could be sticky. It could make things stick when you're in that stainless steel pan. The ceramic pan is almost like having it's the newer Teflon. It's a slippery kind of. It's a safer pan.
Got it. These are great answers, and thank you everyone for your questions. And Carole, you're getting a bunch of thank yous in the chat. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to the Plant Powered Metro team. Karina, you're behind the scenes here helping us out. Thank you so much.
Yes, Karina, thanks.
Show is on hi Isla, nice to see your paw waving. Our next show is in March. I believe we're March 15th. Carole can be reached at the Veggie Vanguard, and you can also write to us at info@Plant Powered Metro New York. And I think those are our announcements for today.
Yay! Yay, Wendy! Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here. Bye.
Okay. Okay.
Come on down, step right in. Carole's Kitchen, where we begin. See what's cooking, something new. Plant-based power just for you.